they're stealing everything. They're stealing hubcaps.
They're stealing tires. They're stealing
Friends.
They're breaking into your car. And I'm just like, damn, like, don't talk to any guys. I mean, granted, I'm What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today's video is gonna be something that is fairly new. As some of you may know, if you follow me on Instagram or if you've been following me for a while, you know that I recently made the move to Atlanta from New York. So I lived in New York my entire life, and this is my first time living out of state. So I get frequent questions about, you know, how I made the decision and things like that. A lot of you have some questions about moving, so I wanted to create this video for those of you with questions so we can kind of touch base and I can share any information that I've gathered and hopefully it helps. So let's jump straight into it. I have my notebook here that I wrote down some notes. I just wrote down some bullet points, so let's jump straight into it. So the first point that I want to touch on when it comes to moving, and this is not just for Atlanta, this is just moving to a new city, is weigh your options. By weighing your options, I mean be realistic with yourself and really ask yourself if you are disciplined and if you are ready to move out on your own. Me personally, I decided to move to Atlanta about 2 years ago. That was in a little bit before the pandemic, so maybe 2019, which would make 3 years now. And I decided that I wanted to move to Atlanta. I didn't know how I was gonna get here, where I was gonna live, where I was gonna work, etc., etc. I just had it in my mind that I was definitely going to move to Atlanta. I have never lived on my own before, so this would be the first time that I'm, you know, living by myself. I live with my boyfriend now, but prior to that, I was living with my grandmother and my mother in an apartment in Brooklyn. The reason why I wanted to bring that up is because there's gonna be a lot of factors and a lot of things that determine whether you're ready or not. How well you budget, how organized you are, how flexible you are. And by flexible, I mean how willing are you to bounce back when shit hits the fan, because it gets real. Living on your own gets really real. With that being said, I'm just gonna jump into some major things that you need to have in place once you make the decision that you're ready to move. Number one, getting your license. Get your license. I still do not have my license and I'm still paying for it. I'm still taking the heat for it. I definitely recommend, if you don't have it already, get your driver's license or at least your driver's permit. Transferring your license from state to state is a lot easier than transferring your permit. What I was told when I first moved here was that if I already had my driver's permit, technically it wouldn't even matter. I would still need to take the Georgia permit test and all that stuff all over again because it is change of state. If you already have your license in New York and you want to get your license in Georgia, all you would need to do is you show your ID, and then I believe they just need 2 proof of residence documents. So it can be a bill, it can be, you know, but it just has to be a government issue. So if you are like me and you are terrified of driving, because I have extreme anxiety about driving, I've been through some shit in cars and I ain't trying to hear it right now, but it is on my to-do list. It is on my goal list for 2022 to get my license. Prepare to Uber, okay? Everything out here in Atlanta is far, okay? Georgia has a lot of space. There's a lot of room. It's not like Brooklyn. It's not like New York where you can just go zip, 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 get on a train, get on a dollar van, get on the bus. It's none of that. They do have public transportation out here, but I do not recommend it because it's just not as reliable. I think the buses out here run once every hour, and the MARTA is just not in the suburbs. So that takes me to my next point, choosing the area that you want to live. I live in the deep suburbs near like Marietta, for those who are familiar. I definitely recommend looking at a map of Georgia, not just Atlanta, because a lot of people get confused. I don't live in the city. I live on the outskirts of the city. For me, that works better because I've lived in the city my entire life, and I just want to be able to just turn it off. I want to be able to turn off all of the stimulation, all of the lights, all of the music, all of the sirens, all of the people. technically speaking, I live in the woods. Hey, I love it. May not be for everybody, but I love it. It's quiet, it's serene, and if I need to go to the city, I may need to travel about 40 minutes, 45 minutes to an hour with traffic on a good day. That's another thing, traffic. So if you are, you know, driving, prepare for traffic. If you do plan on taking cabs and taking Ubers or getting a ride, please make sure that you allot yourself at least an hour of travel time, an hour and 15 minutes travel time. You want to make sure that you decide where you want to live, whether you want to live in the suburbs or if you want to live in the city. If you plan on like bartending, being near all the clubs, if you even plan on stripping, I don't know, but if you plan on being local and you don't really want to drive, you want to just be in the mix of things, I definitely recommend living in the city. Now, there are different places that you can live in the city. I definitely recommend looking at a map of Georgia, zoom in on some cities in Atlanta. It may be helpful to you to live in the city at first and then move back out into the outskirts, just because the property is better out here, the property is better away from the city. The main thing that turned me off from living in the city was the crime rate, okay? The crime rate is going up in the Atlanta city itself. They're stealing everything. They are stealing hubcaps, they are stealing tires, they are stealing rims, they are breaking into your car. So that's just another thing for you to consider when choosing if you want to live in the city or not. Pros of the suburbs is that you get better property, more space. The only con that I have about living in the suburbs is the fact that everything is so freaking far, which is extremely frustrating sometimes, but when I go outside, I just make sure that I get everything that I have to get and I come back inside. I am a full-time content creator, so I don't really have any, you know, need to be outside on a consistent basis unless I'm like going to the supermarket, going to the beauty supply store, etc, etc. Next thing, and I feel like it is the most important thing on my list, is finding a job. Okay, you are going to need to have that situated before you move here. The truth about Georgia is that they do not pay. At least they don't pay what they pay us in New York or maybe in LA. The cost of living in Georgia is fairly cheap. The same jobs that you will be doing in New York, hospital jobs, administrative jobs, city jobs and things like that, they do not pay the way New York does. So for example, before I moved here, I had a city job. I was working in a government office for 40 hours a week. They were paying me about $20 an hour. Before that, when I was working at the bank and I had like a front desk like coordinator position, I was making 22 to 24 an hour mandatory overtime. There is none of that here in Georgia. At least there is, but you're either working for yourself or you're in like a high up position, meaning manager, you are an executive director, an executive administrator, something of that sort. Look into your minimum wage of your state and then compare that cost of living to here in Georgia. Sit down, write a mental map, write it on paper, and figure out exactly how you're gonna pay rent, how you're gonna pay your car payments, or how you're gonna afford your Uber, how you're gonna do groceries, and then literally you're going to need like a whole budgeting book. You're gonna need to write down a list of everything that you potentially may be spending money on versus how much money you spend right now. Just focus on your necessities. So I definitely recommend finding a job in your state and then see if they can transfer you over to Georgia. Now that depends on if that company or if that franchise, if that employer is, you know, open in Georgia. That's what I would recommend. My second option, which is what I did at first when I first moved here, joining a staffing agency. So you can literally go online, go on Google, go on Indeed, and literally type in staffing agencies. The next thing that I want to touch base on is the cultural differences here in Georgia. Everything is slower. New York is the city that literally never freaking sleeps. Always up. Everybody's always, you know, sirens, gunshots, ambulance. If you plan on moving to Georgia, all of that is clipped. The Southern hospitality is real. The good thing about that is that everyone out here I find to be pleasantly polite. It's a big networking city. They have a lot of manners. Somebody would just, you know, see me and, hey, how are you? How's your day going? And it's like, ugh, like I'm good and I got an attitude. You can't be like that, because out here, this is how they're accustomed to communicating. And I honestly like that, because I feel like that builds community. This is where you kind of have to, you know, soften your demeanor, soften your tone, be polite, have manners, you know, interact with people, but you still want to make sure that you're appropriate. Literally, things close early. I would say by 7 p.m. the latest, especially now because of COVID. I don't know how it was before COVID, but especially now, things just close extremely early. The next thing that I want to touch base on, which I feel like I'm the perfect person to talk about this because I am a full-time content creator. Everybody here in Atlanta is somebody. Everybody is somebody. Okay, even you. When you ask somebody out here what they are or what they do for a living, they're an actor, they're a singer, they're a rapper, they're a writer, they're like, that's just what it is. Doesn't matter if they have experience or not. It doesn't matter if they have a resume that correlates with what they're saying or not. None of that matters. They are what they say they are. They are what they are pursuing in that current moment. And me, I can't knock that. It definitely did help encourage me, and I'm pretty sure that it's gonna encourage you once you do move here. Stick to your dreams and do what you want to do. It pushes you, because everyone here is somebody. Less franchises and more community. When you think about Atlanta, you think about Georgia, think less city life, less, you know, big franchises and more community. So I saved the best topic because I get a lot of questions about this. Everybody just kept telling me,
don't talk to any guys.
And I'm just like, damn, like, don't talk to any guys. I mean, granted, I moved here with a boyfriend, but it was still like, don't talk to any guys. Like, girl, what? There are a lot. I don't think this is specific to Atlanta at all. I don't think this is specific to Georgia, because I definitely know some shit. I know some shit be going down in Brooklyn. I'm just saying that I was advised, I was told, okay, in the board meeting, okay, I was advised that there are a lot of men out here who are on the DL. I was told and I was advised, and these friends that I have made, they've lived here all their life. So they are Georgia natives, they live in the city. They say that the hoodest of guys, the cutest of guys, you know, when you are in that scene, you live that life, it's a lot of influence, you know, a lot of things can happen, as can it happen anywhere else. They've caught their dude or their boyfriend or their, you know, sneaky linking with other sausages, and you find out, and then, you know, you get a disease, and then you're sleeping with me, and then you're sleeping with him, and then you're sleeping with me, and then you're sleeping with him, and then, you know, what's the possibility that she's sleeping with somebody else? You just never know. That is just something for you to look into, just for you to keep your eyes peeled out for, okay? Take your time, get to know people, fact check. That is definitely within the first 5 minutes of the conversation. I definitely just wanted to throw that in there, just so that way, you know, I don't leave anything out. Be flexible, okay? Be flexible, be open, flourish, take your time, don't rush. Start in a little studio, a complex, a little $500, $600, $700, because those do exist. Do that and work your way up. It's all about like leveling up and just building. Manifest your shit, manifest your shit, manifest your shit. I hope this video helps at least one person. I'm gonna be posting a Q&A on my IG story, so be sure to follow me on IG, so that way you can give me any suggestions. If you have any questions or any concerns, anything that you want me to touch base on in terms of this topic or anything else you want to hear me talk about, then comment down below. Thank you so much for tuning into another video. I hope that this helps. And go check out my last video since you're already here. We bonded, and go check out that last video, okay? I'll see you guys in my next upload. Bye.